Today we're taking a look at a disc that I have been searching for so long. MVP has not made it easy, but it's finally in my possession, and that is the MVP Stasis. Now, like its forefathers before it, the Kastaplast Berg, the Streamline range, the Stasis is an anti-dome disc designed to eliminate some of the glide that you find in your typical discs. But how does the Stasis compare to the Berg and the range before it? Today, we'll find out. But before we do, let me know what your favorite anti-dome disc is down below in the comments. So with all that said, let's do it. All right, so hole one is a 350-foot shot. Starts with kind of a tunnel here. Basket's off to the left. We're not gonna get 350 feet out of these discs. Some of you guys might, but I'm not gonna. But because we need such an accurate and straight flying first shot, we should get a pretty good showcase from these three discs. First, let's start with the oldies but goodies with the Kastaplast Berg. The Berg is such a straight flyer with just a subtle fade at the end of the flight. Numbers are 1102, and I feel like it's pretty faithful to those numbers. Then we got the Streamline range. This is the Eagle McMahon series from, I believe, 2025. These came out. And these are a little bit different than the Berg. They introduced a little bit more turn in the flight. Yeah, you can see it drifting to the right, but still comes back a little bit. They're really straight flyers though. You can't really go wrong with either. Stasis, on the other hand, I really don't know how it's gonna fly. By the numbers, it's a little bit more overstable at 210 2.5 fade, but we'll see if that's really the case. Ooh, that does have some hookup at the end. And I put the Stasis out a little bit lower than those first two. Now, because this style of disc doesn't have much turn, doesn't have much fade, doesn't have a whole lot of glide either, they are extremely predictable and really limit the range of outcomes on any given throw. That's really what makes them such attractive options for approach shots, because the predictability means you don't need a whole lot of touch to get an accurate throw, which kind of just makes them easy mode for approach shots, especially because, in my opinion, one of the hardest parts of disc golf is making that mental and physical switch from throwing full power shots to throwing touchier, shorter shots. But these types of discs really eliminate a lot of the problems that come with that, where because it has a lower glide, you can still throw it hard and you don't have to worry quite as much about overthrowing the basket. You can just throw it hard and expect a straight flight. That just reduces some of the inherent variance that you would get if you were switching up the power of your shot more. So we're just gonna do some subtle turnovers here and just see how the discs react. Probably gonna have to put all of these on a little bit of anhyzer to really see some turn. First up, we got the Berg. Whereas the range, because it has a little bit more inherent turn, a little bit easier to get those backhand turnover shots. But the Stasis, you can see it pan out and start to fade at the end of the flight. Yeah, based off of our very small sample size so far, definitely looking like Stasis is noticeably more overstable compared to our Berg and our range, which is why I think I'm gonna like the Stasis a little bit more on the forehand than our other options here, just because I like leaning on something a little bit more overstable for my forehand shots. All right, there we go. Don't hit that. Now we got a shorty on our hands here, 260-foot par 3. Basket's a little bit off to the right in this tree line here, so probably gonna have to put these out on a little bit of anhyzer. Of these three, I feel like the Berg is probably the best at just holding the line. Range is a nice, gentle push to the right throughout the flight. Yeah, you see the Stasis come out of that angle a little bit at the end. And this was an extremely tight grouping here. We got range. Berg is our closest here. Let's see if I can ring up a Stasis putt. Scott Stokely famously putted with the Berg for a bit while he was on the Pro Tour. And a part of that was because of how well they sit once they've hit the ground, because it really makes your comebackers a lot easier. With that said, I'm definitely not a big fan of putting with this style of disc. Now let's talk about the ever important hand feel. I will say that the Stasis actually departs from the range quite a bit in terms of hand feel. You can see at the range in this Cosmic Neutron Blue, the parting line is a lot lower. And because of that, this angle is way more aggressive on the bottom of the wing on the Stasis compared to the range, which is much more rounded on the bottom. While the Stasis is still rounded on the bottom, the angle is pointed inward towards the disc more. And the Berg is similar to the range in that way. Again, the Stasis parting line, definitely higher than the Berg. If I had to rank the hand feels, I actually feel like the Stasis is my least favorite. I feel like having that more rounded bottom rim helps my grip, especially because these have such a weird hand feel. I also feel like the Berg's dish, like the concave top, is a little bit deeper compared to both the Stasis and the range, which allows my thumb to sit a little bit lower, which I actually like quite a bit. Of course, that's all personal preference. Now that we just got some wide open space, free from the shackles of trees and timber, we're just gonna throw these, give them a little bit of juice, see how they fly. Start with the Berg. Gave it some height, just goes so straight. So straight. That is why we Berg. Range, you can see the turn on that one. And the Stasis, yeah, look at that hookup at the end for the Stasis. I feel like the Stasis is the furthest flying of the three though. I think it's because I can kind of get that anti-flex on it pretty easy. Now, like I said earlier, the Stasis is pretty hard to come by right now. The official stock retail release comes out in mid-May, so it is coming up. Those are in the Neutron plastic. This one is a Raven Newsome Team Series, Tour Series type disc with a specialty stamp. It's also in Neutron. I assume the stock ones are pretty much going to be exactly the same, just with a different stamp. I was fortunate enough to buy this one from the man himself, Raven Newsome, at Kansas City Wide Open this past weekend. And it was great meeting so many of you guys at KC Wide Open. So if you were there and you saw me and you came up and said, hey, I appreciate that. It was a blast, so much fun. As always, you guys rock. And if you didn't see me there, well, I'll probably be there next year too. So book the flights now. Yeah, that Anheuser Flex. The Stasis is definitely closer to your traditional approach disc in terms of stability compared to the Berg and the range, which is why I'm torn about this, because I've always gone back and forth between range and Berg. I think in my heart of hearts, Berg is my favorite. It just kind of depends on the shot you need, really. Then we got a 270-foot par 3. It's downhill. The basket's on the left. Yeah, look at that. Yeah, I really like this disc for very specific flights. I'm not sure if I like this one or the Berg more. I think the Berg might be better for me, like all around, but there's certain shots like that where Stasis is really good. So yeah, Stasis, great disc. Not sure if I'm gonna bag it. You know, I'm not bagging a Berg style disc at the moment, just because I'm so reliant on Envy and Proxy for all of my approaches. And that's just been working so well for me that I just don't know if I want to really mix it up and mess with what's working. But Stasis, like, it's a contender for me in, you know, potentially going in the bag at some point. Like I said, they don't officially release until mid-May, but you can pre-order them at this channel's sponsor, Disc Golf Deals USA. You can even use my affiliate link in the description below to get 10% off your entire order. And they got a great selection of discs over there, great customer service, great website, and you support the channel if you use the link, so it's pretty sick. Anyways, guys, let me know if you're bagging a Berg style disc yourself. If you enjoyed this video, I'd appreciate if you consider liking and subscribing. You can also follow me on Instagram at Flying Fajita Disc Golf or UDisc Community at Flying Fajita. As always, guys, I love you. Take care. I'll see you next time.